way you think is the way you live. Change your thoughts, and everything around you starts to change. If you're tired of feeling stuck in your own head, this is for you. Every day, you wake up, and your mind starts talking. Sometimes it's helpful, but a lot of the time, it's not. It tells you you're not good enough. It reminds you of everything you haven't done. It makes you doubt yourself before you even try. Negative thinking isn't just a bad habit. It becomes a way of life if you don't stop it. It affects your mood, your choices, your confidence, your energy, even the way you speak to the people around you. This audiobook was made for people who are ready to take back that control. No hype, no fluff, just honest, practical help. You'll learn how to stop those thoughts, take back your focus, and start becoming the person you know you're meant to be. This is your reset button, and it starts now. Chapter 1. Stop letting negative thoughts control how you feel today. You know, one of the hardest things to face in life is realizing how often we let our own thoughts decide how we feel. Most people don't need the world to tear them down. They do it themselves every single day with the way they think. They wake up, and the first thing they do is tell themselves they're not ready, they're not good enough, or they can't handle what's ahead, and they don't even notice it. It becomes normal. But the truth is, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. If you keep thinking in a negative way, you'll live a negative life no matter what good things come your way. You see, every thought you have sends a message to your emotions, and your emotions shape your behavior. When your thoughts say, "I'm not capable," your body starts to feel tired, your confidence fades, and your actions follow that belief. But when you start saying, "I can handle this," your energy rises, your body feels lighter, and you act in a way that supports that belief. It's not magic, it's psychology. The mind believes what you tell it the most. So the first step is awareness. You must begin to notice how you talk to yourself during the day. What kind of tone do you use when you think about your future? When you make a mistake, do you call yourself names, or do you show patience? Every thought you repeat becomes a pattern, and patterns become habits. Negative thoughts are like mental habits, automatic, constant, and convincing. But they are not truth. They are just thoughts you've practiced too often. Many people say, "I can't control my thoughts." But that's not true. You can't control the first thought that pops into your mind, but you can control how long you let it stay there. You can choose to feed it or let it fade. When a negative thought appears, you can either accept it as fact or challenge it. You can ask yourself, "Is this thought helping me, or is it making my life harder?" If it's making your life harder, it doesn't deserve your attention. Think about how many moments in your day are stolen by negativity. Someone looks at you the wrong way, and your mind creates a story about it. You make a small mistake, and your mind repeats it for hours. You hear bad news, and your brain predicts 10 more bad things that haven't even happened. That's how negativity controls you. It convinces you that the worst part of life is always true, but it's not. The mind just likes to focus on danger because it's trying to protect you. Once you understand that, you stop taking every negative thought so personally. You begin to see it as noise, not truth. You need to take back your power from those thoughts. Every time you notice one, pause. Don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Just stop for a second and breathe. Say to yourself, "This is just a thought, not a command." You don't have to obey it. You don't have to build your emotions around it. When you practice this kind of awareness, you start building distance between what you think and who you are. That space is where real control begins. Now, here's what happens when you don't take control. The mind becomes your master. It drags you into worry, comparison, guilt, and self-doubt. You feel powerless because you've handed the wheel to something that never stops talking. The world outside doesn't have to defeat you because your own mind is doing it for them. But once you take charge, everything changes. You start guiding your mind like you'd guide a child. You teach it what to focus on, what to let go of, and what matters most. Here's a truth you need to remember. Your emotions are not your enemies. They're signals. When you feel anxious, it means your thoughts are running too far ahead. When you feel sad, it means your thoughts are stuck in the past. When you feel calm, it means your thoughts are right where you are. So, your job is not to fight emotions, it's to guide your thoughts so your emotions can rest. Try this. When a negative thought appears, speak to it the same way you'd speak to a friend who's panicking. You wouldn't scream or insult them, you'd calm them down. You'd say, "Hey, it's okay. You're thinking too fast. Let's take this one step at a time." That's the same kind of tone you need with yourself. Because the truth is, you are the most influential person in your own life. What you say to yourself matters more than what anyone else ever says to you. Most people keep waiting for life to make them feel better before they change their thoughts. But that's not how it works. You must change your thoughts first, and then life begins to match that new energy. If you start your day with thoughts like, "I can't do this," you'll find proof all day long that you're right. But if you start your day saying, "I'll handle whatever comes," you'll notice that same life starts to cooperate with you. You'll make better decisions, treat yourself better, and recover faster from challenges. Now, I'm not saying to ignore reality or pretend everything's perfect. That's not strength, that's denial. What I'm saying is, deal with reality without letting negativity define it. You can acknowledge what's wrong without building your identity around it. When something bad happens, say, "This is a problem I need to solve," instead of, "This is who I am." That one shift changes how you experience the world. Sometimes negative thinking becomes a habit because it feels safe. If you expect the worst, you can't be disappointed, right? But that kind of safety is a trap. It keeps you small. It keeps you from risking, growing, and living with hope. You must decide that your peace of mind is more important than the comfort of negativity. Because staying negative feels familiar, but it steals your potential. The next time your mind says, "You can't," answer back with evidence. Think of a time when you did something you once thought you couldn't. Think of a time you faced fear and came out stronger. Your brain listens to what you repeat most, so if you want confidence, you must feed it examples of strength. You also need to take care of the environment that feeds your thoughts. Spend time with people who speak life, not complaints. Fill your day with voices, books, music, and ideas that remind you of who you can become. The mind absorbs everything around it, so make sure what you're feeding it helps you grow. And don't underestimate small daily actions. Negative thinking grows in an idle mind. When you have no focus, your thoughts run wild. But when you stay active, working, learning, helping others, your mind finds direction. Purpose is one of the strongest tools against negativity. When you know what you're working toward, It's harder for useless thoughts to pull you down. Remember, this is not about being positive all the time. No one can do that. This is about being aware enough to not drown in negativity when it appears. It's about catching it early, before it turns into a mood that controls your whole day. You have the power to train your mind the same way you train your body. It's not easy, but it's possible. When you start paying attention to what you think, you begin to see patterns, certain thoughts that always appear when you're tired or stressed. Once you see them, they lose power because they can't surprise you anymore. You can say, "I know this voice. It shows up every time I'm about to grow." And then, instead of believing it, you keep going. Every time you take control of one negative thought, you build mental strength. Every time you choose calm instead of chaos, you gain back a piece of your life. You start to see that happiness isn't about everything being perfect. It's about not letting negativity decide how you live. So, from this moment, make a decision. No more giving your emotions to every random thought. No more letting worry, fear, or guilt dictate how your day feels. Your thoughts are just visitors. You decide which ones get to stay. When a negative thought comes, acknowledge it, but don't entertain it. Replace it with something true, something that lifts you, even a little. Over time, this practice changes you. You'll notice your mind feels quieter, your heart feels lighter, and your confidence grows. You'll stop reacting to every bad moment like it's the end of the world. Instead, you'll respond with strength, patience, and clarity. That's what being your best self really means, not being perfect, but being in charge of your inner world. If you can stop negative thinking from ruling your emotions today, you take back your power tomorrow. And when you do that consistently, your life transforms slowly, surely, deeply. Because the person who learns to master their thoughts becomes unstoppable. And that, my friend, is where becoming your best self truly begins. Chapter 2. Understand why your mind chooses fear over confidence. Every person has two voices inside them. One pushes them forward, the other pulls them back. The one that pushes forward says, "You can handle this." The one that pulls back whispers, "What if you fail?" For most people, that second voice wins, not because it's stronger, but because it's older. Fear has lived in the human mind for thousands of years. It was built to protect us, not to destroy us. But in today's world, it often does both. The mind's first job is survival. It's designed to notice danger before it notices opportunity. A long time ago, that instinct kept people alive. It helped them run from wild animals, stay warm, and find food. But in modern life, that same instinct makes you doubt your ability to speak up, start something new, or take a risk. The mind can't always tell the difference between real danger and imagined threat. So when you try something uncertain, your brain reacts as if you're in danger. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, and fear steps in to protect you. That's why you feel fear before you feel confidence. The mind believes it's keeping you safe. It's trying to protect your identity, your comfort, and your sense of control. But growth lives outside of comfort. Confidence begins only when you step beyond what feels familiar. So the same instinct that once helped you survive is now the same instinct holding you back from becoming more. The truth is, fear is not the enemy. The real problem is misunderstanding it. Most people treat fear like a stop sign. They feel it, and immediately turn back. But fear is actually a signal. It's your mind saying, "You're about to grow." If you see fear that way, it loses its power to control you. The goal isn't to erase fear, it's to understand it so it no longer runs your decisions. To understand why the mind chooses fear, you must first look at how it processes the unknown. The mind loves patterns, it loves certainty. It wants to predict what will happen next because predictability feels safe. When something new enters your life, your brain can't predict the outcome, so it fills the gap with fear. It starts creating stories about what could go wrong. That's the brain's way of avoiding surprises. But here's the key: confidence grows from experiences that once scared you. Every time you walk through uncertainty, your brain learns that not everything new equals danger. Think about a time when you were afraid to try something, a job interview, a speech, or a new relationship. Before you took the step, fear filled your mind with doubt. But once you did it, the fear faded. Why? Because experience gives your brain new evidence. It realizes that not every risk leads to pain. The more you do, the less fear controls you. Confidence is built by showing your brain it was wrong about what it feared. The problem is that most people never give their brain that chance. They surrender too early. They stop at the first sign of fear and say, "I can't." But the moment you say, "I can't," you train your brain to believe fear is a fact, not a feeling. That's how the cycle begins. You fear, you stop, you regret, and your confidence shrinks a little more. Soon, your mind doesn't even need a reason to doubt you. It just does it automatically. To break that cycle, you have to teach your brain something new. When fear speaks, don't rush to silence it. Listen. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Fear loves to stay vague because details expose its weakness. When you name your fear, you shrink it. If you say, "I'm afraid of failing," then ask, what would failing really mean? Usually, you'll find that what you're afraid of is not pain, it's judgment. You fear what others will think. You fear being seen as weak, foolish, or unworthy. But those fears come from ego, not truth. Confidence grows when you stop trying to impress and start trying to improve. When your goal becomes progress instead of perfection, fear starts losing its control. Because fear thrives on expectations. It needs you to believe that one mistake means you've failed forever. But confidence understands that mistakes are part of learning. Every time you allow yourself to learn instead of judge, your mind becomes less fearful. There's another reason the mind leans toward fear. It's easier. Negativity takes no effort. Fearful thinking happens naturally because the mind is always scanning for threats. Confidence, however, takes conscious effort. It's something you build every day through small victories. It's not a feeling that magically appears. It's a skill, and like every skill, it strengthens with repetition. If you wake up and the first thoughts in your head are about what might go wrong, you must interrupt that pattern immediately. You do that by asking yourself a better question. Instead of, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if this works?" That simple shift gives your brain a new direction. The human mind follows focus. If you focus on what could go wrong, your brain finds proof of danger. If you focus on what could go right, your brain finds possibility. Another reason the mind defaults to fear is past experience. When you've been hurt, embarrassed, or rejected, your brain remembers it. It builds a database of pain to avoid it in the future. So the next time you're about to try something similar, it sends fear to stop you. That's its way of saying, don't go there again. But here's the truth. Your past pain doesn't define your future potential. You're not the same person who went through that experience. You've learned, grown, and healed. You must remind your brain that you're more capable now. Confidence is not pretending you don't have fear. It's proving to yourself that you can act despite it. Every small moment when you take action, even with doubt in your mind, you're teaching your brain courage. Courage is simply fear with direction. When you guide your fear toward action, it becomes strength. Sometimes people think confidence means never feeling nervous again. That's not true. Even the most confident people feel fear. They just don't obey it. They've trained their mind to respond differently. They've learned that fear is not danger, it's energy. You can use that energy to focus, prepare, and perform. The key is to shift your relationship with fear from enemy to teacher. If you pay attention, fear always carries a message. It might be saying, you care deeply about this. It might be saying, you're about to grow. It might be saying, you've stepped into something meaningful. When you start to listen that way, fear stops being a wall and becomes a guide. Now, let's talk about what confidence really is. Confidence is not arrogance. It's quiet certainty. It's trusting yourself even when you don't know the outcome. It's walking into uncertainty with the belief that you can handle whatever happens. That belief doesn't appear overnight. It's built through honesty and practice. When you do what you say you'll do, you build self-trust. When you break promises to yourself, fear grows because your brain no longer believes you'll follow through. So, if you want to feel confident, start keeping small promises to yourself. Wake up on time, finish that task, speak kindly. Each small act adds another brick to your foundation of confidence. You also have to manage what you feed your mind. Every piece of information you consume shapes how your brain perceives the world. If you constantly listen to negativity, news, gossip, complaints, your brain learns that the world is unsafe. That belief creates fear. But if you fill your day with positive information, personal growth, and encouragement, your brain learns that life is worth showing up for. Confidence is a product of what you repeatedly hear and say. Fear grows stronger in silence. The more you hide from it, the more it controls you. But when you bring it into the open, when you talk about it, write about it, or face it, it loses its grip. Confidence is not found in avoiding fear. It's found in walking through it. Every step you take through fear makes you stronger than before. And remember this, your mind is not broken. You don't need to fix yourself to stop feeling fear. You just need to understand how your mind works. Once you see that fear is a natural reaction, not a personal flaw, you can start working with it instead of fighting against it. That's emotional maturity, understanding your inner world without judging it. Some days, fear will win. You'll doubt yourself again. That's okay. Confidence is not about never falling, it's about rising faster each time. When fear whispers, you can't, don't argue endlessly. Just act. Action silences doubt faster than thought. The more you act, the less fear has to say. The mind learns from repetition. Every time you choose courage over fear, your brain rewires itself. It begins to predict success where it used to predict failure. Over time, That becomes your new normal. Confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes part of who you are. Fear will always try to show up when you're about to do something meaningful. That's its nature. But you have something stronger: awareness, understanding, and choice. When you understand why your mind chooses fear, you stop blaming yourself for feeling it. You start using it as a sign that you're alive, growing, and moving forward. So today, instead of asking how to remove fear, ask how to rise above it. When fear shows up, smile and say, "I see you," because now you know it's not here to stop you. It's here to remind you that you're stepping into something bigger than before, and that's exactly where your best self begins. Chapter 3. Replace overthinking with calm action that builds progress. Overthinking is one of the most common ways people hold themselves back. It looks harmless at first because it feels like you're preparing, planning, or trying to make the right choice. But in reality, overthinking is just fear wearing a smart disguise. It keeps your mind busy while your life stands still. You replay conversations that are already over. You analyze problems that don't exist yet. You build hundreds of possible outcomes in your head and end up too tired to take even one real step forward. The truth is, nothing changes until you do. When you live in your head too long, you start believing that thinking more means doing more. But it doesn't. You can spend hours analyzing how to start, but no amount of thinking replaces the power of a single action. Overthinking creates a false sense of control. It makes you believe you're making progress just because your mind is active. Yet at the end of the day, you're still in the same place. That's why so many people feel exhausted without actually moving forward. Your mind is built to solve problems, not to sit in them. When you don't give it direction, it spins in circles. That's what overthinking is. A mind without purpose. The moment you decide to act, your energy changes. You shift from being a prisoner of thought to a creator of change. Calm action is the antidote to overthinking. It doesn't mean rushing blindly. It means moving with clarity and intention. The first thing to understand is why overthinking happens. It comes from wanting certainty before taking a step. You want to know if it will work out, if it's the right time, if you'll succeed, or if people will approve. But life doesn't give those guarantees. You can't think your way into confidence. You earn confidence through experience. The more you act, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more confident you become. That's how progress is built. One decision, one action at a time. Overthinking feeds on delay. The longer you wait, the louder your doubts become. You start asking, what if it doesn't work? And soon you've built 10 more questions to justify standing still. But here's the truth. Waiting for the perfect moment is another form of fear. There is no perfect moment. The best moment is when you decide to start. Action creates clarity. Movement gives you information thinking never can. If you want to break free from overthinking, you must stop demanding perfection from yourself. Many people believe they need to have the perfect plan before they move. But progress doesn't require perfection. It requires motion. You don't need to see the whole path, just the next step. The moment you take that step, the next one becomes visible. That's how calm action works. It builds momentum slowly, without panic, without rush, but with purpose. Calm action is powerful because it replaces worry with focus. When you're overthinking, your attention is scattered. You're juggling what-ifs, fears and imagined scenarios. But when you act, Your attention narrows to the present moment. You can't move forward while carrying the weight of every possible outcome. The mind finds peace when it has something real to work on. The noise fades when you do. Many people confuse action with busyness. Busyness is doing a lot without direction. Calm action is doing the right thing with intention. The difference is in the mindset. When you act from panic, you chase everything and achieve little. When you act from calm, you focus on what matters and let the rest go. That calm doesn't come from having no problems. It comes from knowing you can handle them as they come. One reason people overthink is because they fear making mistakes. They see mistakes as proof of failure instead of proof of effort. But mistakes are evidence that you're trying, that you're in motion. Every mistake gives you feedback that thinking never could. You can't learn how to ride a bicycle by reading about it. You learn by wobbling, falling and getting up again. Life works the same way. Every action teaches you something that prepares you for the next one. To replace overthinking, you must change your relationship with uncertainty. Uncertainty is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the space where growth happens. You will never feel fully ready, and that's okay. If you wait for readiness, you'll wait forever. Confidence grows from taking action when you're unsure. Calm action means you accept that not knowing everything is part of the process. You trust that clarity will come through movement, not before it. Now, how do you actually practice calm action? Start with small, deliberate steps. When your mind starts racing with endless options, pause and ask yourself, what's one thing I can do right now that moves me forward? That question cuts through the noise. It doesn't demand a perfect plan. It demands focus. Then do that one thing. Once it's done, ask again. This simple practice trains your brain to value action over anxiety. Another powerful way to calm an overthinking mind is through structure. When your day has no structure, your mind fills the empty space with worry. Create small systems that keep you anchored. Set times for reflection, work, rest, and movement. Routine gives your brain a sense of order, which quiets the need to overanalyze everything. The more consistent your habits, the less energy your brain wastes on decision-making. You also need to learn when to stop thinking. Give yourself limits. If you're planning or solving a problem, set a time boundary. Tell yourself, I'll think about this for 15 minutes. Then decide and act. When time's up, move. If you keep analyzing after that, you're no longer solving, you're stalling. Decisions made in calm confidence are far better than those delayed by endless overthinking. Your body also plays a role in calming your mind. Overthinking often happens when your body is still but your thoughts are racing. Physical movement helps release mental tension. Go for a walk, breathe deeply, stretch, or write down what you're thinking. When your body moves, your emotions move too. A calm body makes space for a calm mind. You have to learn to trust your ability to adjust. Overthinking comes from fearing that you won't be able to handle what happens next. But you've already handled so many difficult things in your life. You've survived heartbreak, failure, and disappointment. You've adapted before, and you can do it again. Remind yourself of that truth. Trust that if things don't go as planned, you'll figure it out. That's how you replace fear with calm confidence. Progress doesn't come from perfect decisions. It comes from consistent movement. Think about the people you admire most. They're not free of fear or doubt. They just act faster than their hesitation. They know that action leads to results, while overthinking only leads to regret. The difference between someone stuck and someone growing isn't intelligence. It's courage to act even when things aren't certain. Another key is learning to focus on what you can control. Overthinking often comes from obsessing about things you can't change.
other people's opinions, outcomes, or timing. Calm action is rooted in what's within your power, your choices, your effort, and your response. When you redirect your focus there, you regain control over your emotions and your progress. You also have to stop confusing movement with motion. Some people take action out of anxiety. They start something, stop halfway, start something else, and end up more overwhelmed. Calm action means staying with one thing long enough to see results. It means giving yourself permission to move slowly but consistently. Small steps taken every day beat bursts of energy that fade after a week. When you start replacing overthinking with calm action, you'll notice something beautiful. You begin to trust yourself again. Overthinking damages self-trust because it teaches your brain that you can't decide, that you're not capable. Every time you take action, even a small one, you rebuild that trust. You show yourself that you can rely on your own judgment. Some days your mind will still want to take over. It will try to drag you into endless thoughts about the future, or replay moments from the past. When that happens, bring yourself back to now. Ask, what can I do in this moment? Then do it. It could be as small as sending an email, cleaning your desk, or taking a deep breath. That one act grounds you in the present, and that's where all real progress happens. You'll also notice that calm action changes how you feel about challenges. When you act, you don't fear problems as much because you're already moving towards solutions. Overthinking magnifies problems. Action simplifies. You start realizing that most of the things you worried about never happen, and even when they do, they're manageable. Over time you'll develop what can be called mental quiet. It's not the absence of thought, it's the ability to direct your thought. You'll notice your mind trying to spiral, and instead of joining the spiral, you'll guide it back to action. You'll stop asking what if, and start asking what now. That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. You don't need to eliminate overthinking forever. You just need to stop giving it control. Thoughts will come and go, but your response determines their power. Calm action turns noise into clarity. Each step you take builds evidence that progress is always possible. You start seeing yourself as capable, not confused. You begin to live from confidence, not caution. And remember this truth: thinking doesn't build progress. Doing does. You could spend your life waiting for the right answer, or you could create it through action. Calm, focused, steady action. That's how real growth happens. It's not dramatic. It's not rushed. It's deliberate. So today, don't try to fix every thought that crosses your mind. Don't chase perfection, or wait for certainty. Take one simple, calm action toward what matters most. Keep doing that again and again. The noise will fade, your confidence will rise, and your life will start to move. Overthinking keeps you trapped in what could be. Calm action builds the life that will be.
Chapter 4. Train your brain to see solutions instead of problems. The way you see the world determines the way you live in it. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees a dead end, the other sees a direction. The difference isn't in what happens to them, it's in how their minds interpret it. Your brain can be trained to see possibilities instead of obstacles, progress instead of pain, and lessons instead of loss. But that doesn't happen automatically. Most people have been taught to focus on what's wrong before they notice what's right. It's a mental habit passed down through experience, disappointment, and self-doubt. To break that habit, you must retrain your brain to respond differently, to seek solutions instead of staying stuck in problems. The first step in training your brain this way is understanding how it currently operates.
The human brain has a natural bias toward negativity. It looks for what's wrong because that's what once kept us alive. Our ancestors needed to spot threats quickly, so the mind evolved to focus on problems first. But what helped us survive in the past now holds many people back. When your brain only looks for what's wrong, it blinds you to what's possible. You can't create progress if you're always scanning for danger. You need to teach your brain that safety and success can exist at the same time. When you face a difficulty, your brain instantly generates emotional reactions, fear, frustration, or doubt. In that moment, your thinking narrows. You start repeating the same thoughts, the same worries, the same why me questions. The mind loops around the problem like a broken record. You can't see a way forward because your brain is in defense mode, not creative mode. To move from problem to solution, you must first calm that emotional storm. Take a pause, breathe deeply, create space between the event and your reaction. That space gives your mind the chance to think clearly. Once you calm your reaction, the second step is to shift your question. The quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Most people ask questions that keep them stuck. Why is this happening to me? Or why can't I catch a break? Those questions focus your brain on blame, not growth. To train your brain for solutions, ask different questions. What can I do about this? What's one small step forward? What is this situation trying to teach me? The brain loves to solve problems. It just needs a clear direction. The moment you give it a productive question, it starts searching for answers instead of excuses. Another thing you must understand is that your brain follows patterns. Whatever you feed it regularly becomes its default response. If you constantly focus on what's not working, your brain gets good at finding flaws. If you constantly focus on progress, your brain learns to look for possibilities. It's like training a muscle. At first it feels unnatural to focus on solutions. You might still notice the problem first, but with repetition, the shift happens. One day, you'll catch yourself reacting differently. Instead of saying, "This is terrible," you'll say, "This is tough, but there's something I can do." That's when you know your brain is changing. It's important to remember that seeing solutions doesn't mean ignoring reality. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging what's wrong while choosing to direct your energy toward fixing it instead of feeding it. Anyone can describe a problem. The real strength is in deciding to find what's next. Your brain becomes more resourceful the moment you choose focus over frustration. To train your brain this way, start practicing daily awareness. Notice how often your thoughts lean toward problem. Listen to the words you use. Do you often say, "I can't," "It's hard," or "This won't work"? Those words teach your brain helplessness. Replace them with "I'll figure it out," "I can learn," or "I'll try another way." This isn't about positive thinking for the sake of optimism. It's about creating a pattern of problem solving in your mind. Every time you choose a more empowering thought, you're building new mental pathways. You can also train your brain through reflection. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what went well today? And what did I learn from what didn't? This small practice shifts your focus from what's missing to what's working. Your brain learns to notice progress, not just pain. Over time, this builds resilience, the ability to stay calm and capable even when things go wrong. Resilient people aren't lucky, they're trained. They've taught their brains to see meaning in every struggle. It also helps to surround yourself with problem solvers. The people you spend time with influence how you think. If you're always around people who complain, your brain will adopt that habit. But if you spend time with people who look for ways to grow, your brain starts doing the same. You absorb the mindset of your environment. Choose one that challenges your mind to see possibilities, not limits. Another key part of training your brain is managing what you consume. Your mind is constantly shaped by the information you feed. If you spend your time reading about failure, drama and negativity, your brain learns to expect problems everywhere. But if you read stories of resilience, innovation, and progress, your brain learns to expect solutions. You can't think clearly if your mind is filled with noise. What you watch, read, and listen to daily either strengthens or weakens your mindset. Choose your input carefully. It becomes your internal voice. To keep your brain solution focused, practice gratitude as well. Gratitude isn't just about feeling thankful. It's about training your brain to notice what's working, instead of only what's broken. When you list what you're grateful for, your brain releases chemicals that reduce stress and increase focus. That mental state makes it easier to solve problems. Gratitude opens the mind, while complaint closes it. A grateful brain sees options. A bitter brain sees obstacles. Another important skill is separating what you can control from what you can't. Problems often feel bigger than they are because we mix the two together. You can't control other people, outcomes, or timing, but you can control your effort, your reaction, and your decisions. When you focus only on what you can do, your brain starts creating solutions automatically. You feel more capable because you're no longer fighting what's outside your power. You can also train your brain through visualization. Take a few minutes each morning to imagine yourself solving problems calmly and effectively. Picture how it feels to stay composed under pressure. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagined experience and real experience. So when you visualize success, your brain rehearses it. Then when challenges appear, your response feels familiar. You act from confidence, not panic. There's a simple rule that can transform your thinking. Spend 10% of your time on the problem and 90% on the solution. Most people do the opposite. They spend hours analyzing what went wrong and only a few minutes thinking about how to fix it. But energy follows attention. The more time you spend on solutions, the more creative and capable you become. When you make this shift, you start solving things faster and stressing less. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to train your brain. The next time something doesn't go as planned, notice your first thought. Do you complain, or do you think about what can be done? That split-second response reveals how your brain has been trained. Don't judge it, just redirect it. Say to yourself, okay, that happened. Now what's my next step? That small question activates a different part of your brain, the part responsible for logic, planning, and creativity. You must also learn to slow down your thinking. When problems appear, the mind tends to race. You jump to conclusions. Imagine worst-case scenarios and lose perspective. Calm your mind first. Then look at the facts. Often the problem isn't as big as your emotions make it seem. Once you reduce the noise, your brain can focus on what truly matters. A calm brain finds answers faster than an anxious one. Your thoughts shape your identity. If you constantly think, I'm always in trouble, your brain builds that as a belief. But if you start saying, I can handle challenges, your brain begins to act in alignment with that statement. You become more proactive, more confident, more creative. You don't need to force belief. You build it through repetition. Keep reminding yourself, I find solutions. Eventually, your brain accepts it as truth. Training your brain isn't about quick fixes, it's about consistency. You can't expect one day of positive thinking to erase years of mental conditioning, but with practice, your responses change. Problems that once overwhelmed you start to look manageable. You respond faster, think clearer, and recover sooner. This is what mental growth feels like. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about handling them with strength and clarity. Every time you solve something small, celebrate it. Your brain needs proof that solutions work. Each win, no matter how minor, builds momentum. You're teaching your brain that effort brings results. Over time, that belief becomes automatic. You stop fearing problems because you trust your ability to handle them. That trust is the foundation of confidence and peace. When you train your brain to see solutions, you stop living reactively. You no longer wait for life to calm down before you do. You become an active participant in shaping your reality. Challenges don't disappear, but your relationship with them changes. Instead of thinking, "Why me?" you begin thinking, "What's next?" That mindset gives you freedom. The truth is, problems are never the problem. It's how you think about them that decides their weight. Two people can experience the same struggle. One gets stuck, the other grows. The difference lies in training. Your brain is capable of extraordinary adaptability, but it will only do what you teach it to do. If you train it to panic, it will. If you train it to focus, it will. The choice is always yours. So train your brain daily. Replace complaints with curiosity. Replace fear with strategy. Replace panic with patience. Each time you do that, you're shaping a stronger, wiser mind. A mind that doesn't wait for perfect conditions, but creates them. A mind that turns problems into plans and obstacles into opportunity. And one day, you'll realize something powerful. Life didn't get easier. You just got better at seeing it. Because when your brain learns to find solutions, you stop surviving and start building. You stop reacting and start creating. That's what happens when you choose to see through the lens of possibility instead of limitation, and that is how you become unstoppable.
Chapter 5. Break old mental patterns that keep you feeling stuck. Every person reaches a point in life where they realize they've been living in the same patterns for too long. The days start to look the same, the thoughts sound the same, and the results never change. You feel like you're trying, but something invisible keeps pulling you back. That invisible force is not bad luck or destiny, it's your mental patterns. These are the repeated ways you think, react, and interpret life. They are built over time through experience, pain, belief, and repetition. Once your brain learns a pattern, it keeps repeating it automatically, even when it no longer serves you. To move forward, you must learn to break those patterns consciously and rebuild new ones that match the person you want to become. Mental patterns are like invisible programs running in the background of your mind. You don't always notice them, but they decide how you feel and what you do. Some of them protect you, but others trap you. A common one is the pattern of self-doubt, always questioning your worth, your ability, your timing. Another is the pattern of delay, always waiting for a better moment that never comes. There's also the pattern of fear, expecting the worst before giving the best effort. These patterns don't start overnight. They form slowly through repetition. Every time you respond the same way to a challenge, the brain builds a stronger pathway for that response. Soon, it becomes automatic. You don't even choose it, it just happens. That's what keeps people feeling stuck. The good news is that any pattern that was learned can be unlearned. The mind is flexible. It can change at any stage of life, but the first step is awareness.
You can't change what you don't notice, so start observing your thoughts without judgment. Pay attention to how you react when things go wrong. Do you shut down, overthink, or blame yourself? Do you talk yourself out of opportunities before trying? Each of those reactions is a clue to the pattern you've built. Awareness breaks the illusion that you're powerless. The moment you can name a pattern, you've already started weakening it. Breaking mental patterns is not about forcing yourself to think positively. It's about interrupting what no longer helps you and replacing it with something that does. When a limiting thought appears, like "I'm not ready" or "it's too late for me," pause. Don't argue with it. Observe it. Then ask yourself, where did this belief come from? You might realize it came from a past mistake, a childhood experience, or someone else's opinion. Once you see where it began, you can question its truth. The brain can't hold on to a belief that you actively challenge. One powerful way to break old mental patterns is through change in behavior. You can't think your way into a new mindset. You have to act your way into one. For example, if your pattern is avoiding discomfort, start doing small things that make you slightly uncomfortable. Speak up in a meeting, share your opinion, or start something new even when you're uncertain. Each time you act differently, you interrupt the old pathway in your brain and build a new one. Over time, the new pattern becomes stronger. What once felt scary becomes natural. Your environment also reinforces your mental pattern. If you surround yourself with negativity, your brain keeps repeating that energy. If you stay around people who encourage growth, your mind learns expansion. Sometimes breaking old patterns means changing the spaces and conversations you spend time in. The brain is always learning from what it hears, sees, and feels. So place yourself in environments that reflect the life you want, not the one you're trying to escape. Another thing that keeps people stuck is attachment to identity. You tell yourself, "I'm just this way." You repeat it so often that your brain accepts it as fact. But who you are is not fixed, it's flexible. The brain can rewrite its identity if you give it new evidence. Every time you do something outside your comfort zone, you prove to your brain that you are more than your past. You teach it that change is safe. The more proof you create, the faster your identity grows beyond old limits. Many mental patterns are built on stories we've told ourselves for years. Stories like "I always mess things up," or "I'm not the kind of person who succeeds." These stories feel true because you've repeated them so often, but they're not facts, they're habits. You've just practiced them long enough to believe them. To break them, you must tell a new story and repeat it until your brain starts believing that instead. If you keep saying, "I'm learning to improve," or "I'm becoming stronger every day," your mind begins to look for proof of that. The story you tell yourself becomes your direction. When you start breaking old mental patterns, discomfort will appear. Your brain doesn't like change. It prefers the familiar, even when the familiar hurts. You might feel resistance, confusion, or anxiety. That's normal. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that your mind is adjusting. You're rewiring the pathways that have been running for years. Think of it as teaching your brain a new language. It takes time, practice, and patience. The discomfort you feel is the sound of growth happening inside you. You can speed up this process by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness trains you to see your thoughts as separate from who you are. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," you start saying, "I am noticing anxiety." That small shift creates distance between you and the pattern. It gives you the power to choose a different response. The more mindful you become, the faster you catch your old patterns, before they control your behavior. Awareness is like light. It exposes what was hidden and weakens its hold on you. Another method to break stuck patterns is journaling. Write down your recurring thoughts. Don't censor them. Let them flow. Seeing your thoughts on paper gives you clarity. You start recognizing themes, the same words, fears or excuses that appear again and again. Those are your mental loops. Once you identify them, you can write new statements that reflect who you want to be. For example, if your journal shows a pattern of, "I can't handle failure," write a counter-belief, "I learn quickly from every challenge." Repetition of these new ideas starts rewiring your thought system. Self-compassion is also essential. You can't break old mental patterns by hating yourself for having them. Judgment keeps you stuck. Understanding sets you free. When you notice an old pattern showing up, don't shame yourself. Say, "I've practiced this way of thinking for years. It makes sense that it's still here, but I'm learning something new now." That tone of kindness keeps your mind open. Change happens faster when your mind feels safe. Breaking patterns also requires taking responsibility. You have to stop blaming circumstances, people, or timing for your stagnation. The moment you accept that your patterns belong to you, you gain power over them. That's not blame, it's ownership. It means you can change what you create. You can't rewrite your history, but you can reprogram your response to it. Responsibility is the foundation of growth. To build new patterns, consistency is key. You can't expect your mind to transform overnight. You're replacing years of conditioning. So start small. Replace one negative thought with a constructive one. Change one unhelpful habit each week. Every small victory builds momentum. It's like training a muscle. The more consistent you are, the stronger it becomes. Don't wait for motivation. Create discipline. Discipline is what builds new wiring in your brain. Your old patterns often have emotional roots. Maybe you learned to stay silent because expressing yourself once caused pain. Maybe you learned to expect failure because success was never recognized. To break the pattern, you must release the emotion attached to it. That means forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and allowing yourself to outgrow what once hurt you. Emotional release doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing your energy from the past so you can move forward without it controlling you. The process of breaking mental patterns also involves learning something new. The brain thrives on novelty. When you challenge it with new skills, ideas, or environments, it becomes more flexible. Try reading new subjects, taking a class, or traveling to new places. These experiences create new connections in your brain, making it easier to build fresh ways of thinking. The more you expose yourself to change, the less resistance you'll feel toward it. Another practical step is to build rituals that reinforce your new mindset. Start your morning with thoughts that align with the person you're becoming. End your night reflecting on progress instead of flaws. Create routines that remind your brain daily that growth is your new normal. Patterns don't just live in thoughts, they live in habit. When you change what you repeatedly do, your mind follows naturally. You'll know you're breaking old patterns when you begin responding differently to situations that once triggered you. Maybe you used to shut down during conflict, but now you stay calm and communicate. Maybe you used to avoid challenges, but now you take small steps toward them. Those moments prove that your mind is learning a new rhythm. Celebrate them. Don't measure progress by perfection. Measure it by awareness and effort. The truth is, being stuck is not a life sentence. It's a signal. It means your old ways of thinking can no longer carry you forward. That's not failure. That's transformation calling. When you stop running from that feeling and start working with it, everything changes. You begin to see that you're not broken. You're just ready to grow beyond your old limit. Every time you break a pattern, you expand your future. You give yourself permission to experience life in a new way. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop repeating cycles of fear, guilt, and regret. You begin to choose your path conscious. That's real freedom. Not a life without problems, but a mind that no longer repeats the same mistakes. So if you feel stuck today, remember this. You're not trapped by your life. You're trapped by your patterns, and patterns can be changed. Start by observing them, questioning them, and replacing them with actions that reflect who you want to become. Each small shift is a victory. With time, those small victories become a completely new life. You'll look back one day and realize you didn't just change your mind. You rebuilt your entire way of being, and that's how true growth begins.
Chapter 6. Feed your mind with thoughts that bring peace and power. What you feed your mind determines the quality of your life. Every thought, word and belief you allow inside your mind becomes part of how you feel, how you act, and how you live. Most people are careful about what they eat or drink, but they let anything enter their mind without question. Complaints, gossip, fear, negativity and doubt. Then they wonder why they feel drained, anxious or lost. The mind needs nourishment, just like the body does, and what you feed it daily either builds peace and power or creates chaos and weakness. The mind is a garden. It grows what you plant. If you feed it with fear, it produces worry. If you feed it with anger, it grows resentment. But if you feed it with truth, calm, and gratitude, it produces strength and clarity. The challenge is that your mind can't always tell the difference between what's healthy and what's harmful. It absorbs whatever you allow to stay. That means you must take responsibility for what you let in. Peace and power aren't gifts, they are the result of intentional feeding. Your thoughts don't appear by accident, they come from the information you consume, the people you spend time with, the environment you live in, and the beliefs you've accepted over time. If you spend hours reading negative news, scrolling through comparisons, or listening to people who only talk about what's wrong with the world, your mind will reflect that energy. It will start to see problems everywhere and lose its sense of hope. But if you fill your day with meaningful ideas, growth-focused conversations, and messages of encouragement, your mind will become your ally instead of your enemy. The first step in feeding your mind right is awareness. Ask yourself what kind of mental diet you've been living on. What kind of thoughts fill your mornings? What kind of conversations surround you during the day? What kind of content you read, watch, or listen to before bed? These things don't just entertain you, they shape your perception. They teach your brain what to focus on. Every single input is programming your emotions and behavior. The question is, what are you programming your emotions and behavior? The question is, what are you programming yourself to become? Peace begins when you stop letting negativity enter your mind unchecked. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can always decide what stays within you. When a negative thought appears, you don't have to accept it as truth. You can acknowledge it, question it, and replace it. The more you practice this, the less control those thoughts have over you. Feeding your mind with peace means making calm the priority, not the afterthought. You do that by creating quiet moments, time to think, breathe, and reflect. Most people fill every gap of silence with noise, but silence is where the mind rests and resets. Power, on the other hand, comes from direction. You gain power when your thoughts align with purpose. When you know what matters to you, your thoughts begin to support that goal instead of sabotaging it.
That's why people who live with a sense of mission seem calm even in chaos. They've trained their minds to focus on what moves them forward, not what drains them. If you want that same inner strength, you must feed your mind with ideas that challenge and inspire you. Read about people who overcame struggles. Listen to wisdom that uplifts you. Study subjects that expand your thinking. The mind grows stronger through learning, not complaining. One of the most powerful ways to feed your mind with peace is through gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. It softens fear, reduces comparison, and restores clarity. When you start your day thinking about what you appreciate instead of what you lack, your mind becomes grounded. It no longer rushes toward worry, because it has something stable to stand on. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a daily practice that trains your brain to look for the good, even when life feels uncertain. You also have to protect your mental boundaries. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every argument needs your participation. Not every piece of news needs your energy. Feeding your mind with peace sometimes means walking away from what steals it. You don't need to engage in everything that demands your reaction. Power is not found in reacting to everything. It's found in choosing where to place your focus. The more selective you are, the more peace you preserve. Start paying attention to the language you use in your daily life. Words are thoughts spoken out loud. If you constantly say things like "I'm tired," "I can't do this," or "life is too hard," you're feeding your mind weakness. Your words reinforce your mindset. Try replacing them with phrases that strengthen you. "I'm learning," "I'm improving," "I can handle this." Those words may seem small, but your brain listens to every single one. Over time, those new phrases become your truth, and your confidence begins to rise. Feeding your mind with peace also means forgiving yourself and others. Holding on to resentment keeps your thoughts stuck in pain. It poisons your inner peace and consumes your energy. Forgiveness doesn't mean agreeing with what happened. It means releasing yourself from the burden of carrying it. The moment you let go, your mind becomes lighter. You free up space for calm, for clarity, and for growth. That's mental nutrition at its highest form. Freeing your thoughts from what weighs them down. You also have to understand the relationship between your physical state and your mental state. A tired, neglected body creates a restless mind. When you don't sleep enough, eat well, or move your body, your thoughts naturally become heavier. The mind and body communicate constantly. When you take care of one, the other follows. Simple things like walking in nature, stretching or staying hydrated can restore balance and bring back peace. You can't feed your mind properly if your body is exhausted. Make it a habit to start and end each day with nourishing thoughts. In the morning, feed your mind with intention. Remind yourself of your goals, your strengths, and what you're grateful for. In the evening, feed it with reflection. Ask yourself what you learned, what you improved, and what you can release. This habit teaches your brain to process life constructively instead of reactively. The more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes. Another powerful tool is affirmations, but not the empty kind. Real affirmations are not about pretending, they are about choosing your focus. When you tell yourself, "I am calm, I am capable," or "I can find peace," you're reminding your brain what to prioritize. It's not magic, it's reinforcement. You're replacing old reactive thoughts with conscious, empowering ones. Over time, those words become your mental baseline. Peaceful and powerful thinking also requires acceptance. There will always be things you can't control, situations, people outcome. Fighting against what you can't change only exhausts your mind. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding what's yours to manage and what's not. The moment you accept reality, your thoughts stop resisting it, and your energy becomes available for progress. That's where peace lives, in clarity, not in control. Many people feed their minds without realizing it, through what they watch or listen to. Movies, shows, songs and online content all shape your mental landscape. If you constantly consume material that glorifies anger, chaos or sadness, your mind adjusts to that frequency. It starts to normalize tension and negativity. Choose content that leaves you feeling uplifted, focused and strong. It's not about avoiding reality. It's about choosing the kind of reality you want to reinforce in your mind. You can also build peace through gratitude-based reflection. At the end of your day, recall 3 things that made you feel good, no matter how small. Maybe it was a kind word, a good meal, or a few minutes of quiet. When you reflect on these moments, your brain releases chemicals that build calm and reduce stress. Over time, you begin to expect good things, not because life is perfect, but because your attention has shifted to noticing them. Feeding your mind with power means developing discipline in your thoughts. Power comes from consistency. The most successful and peaceful people in the world are not those with fewer challenges, but those who've trained their minds to stay steady in the storm. They don't let random thoughts dictate their emotions. They guide their minds like leaders guide their teams, firmly, calmly, and with direction. You can do the same by setting mental rules for yourself. When you catch a thought that weakens you, don't entertain it. Replace it immediately with something constructive. The more you do this, the more your brain learns to protect your peace automatically. Peaceful thinking doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you respond to reality with strength. You can acknowledge pain without letting it define your perspective. You can see a challenge and still believe in your ability to overcome it. That balance between calm and courage is what true mental strength looks like. Another way to feed your mind with peace and power is through gratitude in action. Help someone, encourage someone. Kindness has a direct impact on your mental energy. When you give value to others, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel grounded and purposeful. It reminds you that you have the ability to influence the world positively. That sense of contribution strengthens your self-worth, which in turn brings peace. It's also important to declutter your mind. Just like a messy room can make you feel stressed, a cluttered mind full of unfinished thoughts can keep you anxious. Write things down, organize your tasks, and give every thought a place. When your mental space is clear, peace naturally fills the empty room. You can't think powerfully when your mind is overloaded with random noise. Over time, as you continue feeding your mind with the right thoughts, you'll notice that you respond differently to life. Situations that used to shake you will no longer control you. You'll pause instead of panic. You'll focus instead of freeze. You'll see possibilities where you once saw problems. That's the sign of a well-nourished mind. It doesn't get lost in emotion. It guides emotion toward growth. You must understand that peace and power are choices you renew daily. They don't appear once and stay forever. They are cultivated every moment through awareness and intention. You can't always stop negative thoughts from arriving, but you can stop them from staying. Every time you choose a peaceful, powerful thought over a fearful one, you build a stronger mind. So feed your mind wisely. Feed it hope when it's tired. Feed it truth when it's confused. Feed it patience when it's restless. Feed it strength when it feels small. The mind becomes what it's fed, and the thoughts you repeat today become the emotions you feel tomorrow. Choose thoughts that heal, empower and uplift you. Because a peaceful and powerful mind is not found, it's built, one thought at a time.
Chapter 7. Challenge the lies your inner critic keeps repeating daily. There is a voice inside every person that never seems to stop talking. It tells you what you should have done, what you can't do, and what might go wrong. It questions your worth, your abilities, and your future. That voice is your inner critic, and if you don't learn to challenge it, it becomes the loudest influence in your life. It sounds like truth, but most of the time it's not. It's a collection of doubts, fears, and memories disguised as facts. The critic inside your head isn't there to help you grow. It's there to keep you safe, small, and silent. And the only way to regain your power is to stop believing every word it says. Your inner critic was built over time. It started forming the first time you were judged, rejected, or told you weren't enough. Every time something hurt you emotionally, your mind tried to protect you by creating a warning system. It started saying things like, "Don't try that again," or "You'll embarrass yourself." At first, that voice was meant to keep you safe from pain. But as you grew, it didn't update its purpose. It kept using fear as protection, even when the danger wasn't real. That's why the critic feels convincing. It speaks from old pain that still lives inside you. The problem is that the inner critic doesn't understand growth. It confuses discomfort with danger. Whenever you step outside your comfort zone, it tries to pull you back. It tells you you're not ready, that you'll fail, that you don't belong. And if you keep listening, you'll start treating its lies as limits. You'll hold back your ideas, your voice, and your potential. You'll stop trying before you even start. The critic wins not because it's right, but because it's repeated. You've heard it so often that it sounds familiar. And familiarity feels true. The first step to breaking free from your inner critic is awareness. You can't challenge a lie you don't recognize. Start by paying attention to your inner dialogue throughout the day. What does that voice say when you make a mistake? What does it say when you think about your dreams? You might be surprised at how harsh it sounds. Most people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. But you can't build confidence on a foundation of self-attack. Notice the tone, the words, and the situations that trigger your inner critic. Awareness begins the separation between you and it. The second step is questioning. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's true. When the critic says, "You're not capable," ask, "What proof do I have of that?" When it says, "You always fail," ask, "Always? Is that really true?" You'll find that the critic rarely has evidence. It relies on exaggeration and assumption. The more you question it, the weaker it becomes. The critic thrives on automatic acceptance. It loses power the moment you interrupt its rhythm. It's also important to understand that your inner critic often uses the voice of authority figures from your past. Maybe a teacher who said you weren't good enough, a parent who compared you to others, or a moment when someone laughed at your effort. Those voices got stored in your subconscious and now replay as your own thoughts. But they don't belong to you anymore. They were opinions, not truths. You can acknowledge that those experiences shaped you, but you don't have to let them define you. You are not the same person you were when those words first hurt you. You've grown. You've learned. And now you have the power to rewrite the message. Challenging your inner critic means replacing its lies with reality. For every negative statement, create a truth-based response. If it says you're not smart enough,
Remind yourself of times you've solved problems or learned something difficult. If it says you don't deserve good things, recall moments when you showed kindness, effort, and integrity. Your mind believes what it hears most often, so repetition matters. Speak to yourself with facts, not fear. The critic's words are emotional reactions, not rational conclusions. You must also understand that silence doesn't make the critic disappear. Avoiding your thoughts doesn't heal them, it only lets them grow in the dark. The more you ignore them, the more they influence you subconsciously. Instead, bring them into the light. Write them down, read them out loud. Seeing your inner critic on paper helps you separate from it. It becomes something you can analyze instead of something that controls you. You start realizing that you are the listener, not the voice. One powerful practice is to name your inner critic. Give it a name, a character, even a personality. It sounds simple, but it creates distance between you and it. When that voice says you're not enough, you can respond, "That's just the critic talking again." Naming it turns it into an object you can observe instead of an identity you become. You stop merging with it and start managing it. Your critic also loves perfectionism. It sets impossible standards, then attacks you when you fall short. It says things like, "You should have done better," even when you did your best. To break this pattern, you must redefine success. Success is not doing everything perfectly. It's doing something honestly. It's progress, not flawless. When you embrace imperfection, the critic loses one of its strongest weapons. It can't shame you for being human if you've already accepted that growth includes mistakes. Another lie the inner critic tells is that your worth depends on achievement. It convinces you that you must earn your right to feel proud, loved, or secure. That belief keeps you chasing approval instead of peace. But your value doesn't come from performance. It comes from existence. You were enough before you achieved anything. You'll still be enough even if you fail. When you internalize that truth, you stop needing validation from external results. You start acting from self-respect instead of fear. To weaken your critic, surround yourself with voices that speak truth and encouragement. Spend time with people who see your potential and remind you of. Listen to mentors, speakers, and friends who build you up. The more you hear empowering messages, the harder it is for your critic to dominate your thoughts. The mind absorbs repetition. Feed it more truth than doubt. You can also strengthen your self-compassion through daily reflection. At the end of each day, instead of replaying what went wrong, ask yourself what went right. Recognize effort, not just outcome. Celebrate the small things, the patience you showed, the task you finished, the way you handled frustration. Your critic thrives on ignoring your progress. Don't give it that advantage. Acknowledging your effort retrains your brain to see your value beyond mistakes. The inner critic often uses comparison as a weapon. It points at others and says, "Look at them, they're ahead of you, better than you, smarter than you." Comparison steals your peace because it focuses on someone else's path instead of your own. The truth is, every person's journey has a different path. You can't compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 10. When you focus on growth instead of competition, your critics' comparisons lose their sting. You're not behind, you're on your path. Sometimes the critic disguises itself as motivation. It says you need to be harder on yourself to succeed. But real growth doesn't come from self-punishment, it comes from self-awareness. You don't improve by tearing yourself apart, you improve by understanding yourself. You can be disciplined and still calm. You can correct your mistakes without calling yourself a failure. Firmness with compassion is what truly strengthens your mind. To challenge your inner critic, you must build a new inner voice, a supportive one. Think of it as your inner coach. The coach encourages, guides and corrects without cruelty. When the critic says you're not good enough, the coach says you're learning, keep going. When the critic says you failed, the coach says you tried and that's how you grow. You can train this voice through conscious effort. Every time the critic speaks, respond with the coach's perspective. Over time, the coach becomes louder and the critic loses its dominance. It's also helpful to remember that your critic's words are not prophecies, they are echoes. They reflect your past experiences, not your future reality. Just because the critic says you can't, doesn't mean you won't. The brain is capable of change at any age, and so is your belief system. You can rewrite the script by replacing old fears with new evidence. Each time you prove yourself wrong in action, by succeeding, learning, or improving, you weaken the critic's credibility. One of the most powerful moments in personal growth is when you stop taking your thoughts personally. The mind produces thousands of thoughts a day, and most of them are not accurate. They're just noise, reflections of emotion, stress, or habit. You don't have to believe them all. The moment you understand that, you stop treating your inner critic like a truth teller and start treating it like background chatter. You listen, you observe, but you don't obey. Challenging the critic also means creating space for self-trust. Every time you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you build evidence that you can rely on yourself. The critic feeds on inconsistency. It says, you never follow through. But if you start keeping small commitments, waking up on time, finishing what you start, you prove it wrong. You replace the critic's assumptions with facts. Confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from trust. Your inner critic may never disappear completely, but that's okay. Its presence means you care. You want to do well. You want to improve. But now you know that you don't have to let it drive your decisions. You can thank it for trying to protect you, and still choose to act anyway. Growth doesn't require silence from your critic, it requires courage in its presence. Over time, as you continue challenging its lies, you'll notice a shift. The voice will still speak, but it won't shake you like it once did. You'll respond with calm instead of panic. You'll laugh at its exaggerations instead of believing them. That's the sign of a trained mind, one that knows the difference between truth and noise. So the next time your inner critic starts talking, don't fight it, but don't bow to it either. Meet it with awareness, question its story, and replace its lies with truth. You are not the voice of your doubt, you are the one who decides what that voice means. The critic can only survive on your belief. The moment you stop believing it, it loses its purpose. And when it loses its purpose, you finally gain your peace.
Chapter 8. Build inner confidence by trusting your ability to handle life. Confidence is not something you find, it's something you build. Most people wait for life to become easier before they feel confident, but real confidence doesn't come from a smooth road. It comes from trusting that no matter how rough the path gets, you can handle it. Confidence is not about never falling, it's about knowing you can get back up. It's not about predicting what will happen, it's about believing in your ability to respond to whatever comes. The strongest people in the world don't walk around without fear. They walk forward with trust in themselves. You build inner confidence the same way you build physical strength, through practice, repetition, and challenge. Every time you face something hard and survive, your brain learns that you can handle more than you thought. Each experience adds another layer of proof that you're capable. But most people never see that proof because they stop themselves before trying. They think confidence comes before action, when in truth, action creates confidence. You don't wake up one day feeling ready. You become ready by doing. Trusting your ability to handle life begins with a simple belief. You have survived every bad day so far. You faced uncertainty, pain, and disappointment, and you're still here. That means your track record for getting through hard things is 100%. When you remind yourself of that, your fear loses power. You stop needing to know every outcome before you take a step. You stop expecting perfection and start relying on resilience. That shift from control to trust is where confidence starts to grow. Many people confuse confidence with arrogance. Arrogance says, "I'll never fail." Confidence says, "Even if I fail, I'll learn and keep going." One is built on fear of looking weak. The other is built on trust in personal strength. The goal is not to become fearless, but to become brave enough to act despite fear. When you trust yourself, fear becomes background noise instead of a full stop. Building that kind of self-trust requires honesty. You can't build confidence by pretending. You have to see yourself clearly, your strength, your weaknesses, your habits, and your growth areas. When you know yourself deeply, you stop being afraid of what others think. You stop trying to live up to expectations that don't fit you. Confidence doesn't come from convincing the world you're strong. It comes from knowing who you are when no one's watching. Start by keeping small promises to yourself. Every time you do what you say you'll do, you strengthen the bridge of trust within you. When you tell yourself you'll wake up early and you follow through, your brain remembers it. When you decide to finish a task, and you do it, your confidence grows quietly in the background. But when you constantly break promises to yourself, when you quit halfway, avoid effort, or make excuses, you weaken that trust. Then even if you tell yourself you're capable, your brain doesn't believe it, because it remembers all the times you gave up. Confidence isn't built through motivation, it's built through consistency. Another key to inner confidence is learning how to face discomfort. Life will test you, not because it wants to break you, but because it wants to show you who you can become. Every challenge you face is an invitation to grow stronger. When you avoid discomfort, you also avoid growth. But when you face it, you discover something powerful. You're more adaptable than you ever imagined. You realize that pain doesn't destroy you, it shapes. That realization changes everything. It's also important to stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. Confidence dies in comparison. The moment you start measuring your progress against someone else's timeline, you lose sight of your own value. Everyone's path has its own rhythm. You may not be where you want to be yet, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still building. Trust the timing of your life. What's meant for you will unfold at the pace you're prepared for. When you trust the process, you replace impatience with peace. Confidence also grows when you allow yourself to be imperfect. The people who seem the most at ease with life are not the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who've made peace with not having it all together. They've learned to laugh at mistakes, adjust when things go wrong, and keep moving. When you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you create space for progress.
Every mistake becomes feedback instead of failure. That mindset builds confidence that lasts, because it's grounded in reality, not fantasy. To strengthen your trust in yourself, you must learn to manage your thoughts. Your mind can either be your greatest ally or your biggest enemy. When it starts feeding you doubt, don't argue endlessly. Action quiets the noise of overthinking. Every time you do what scares you, even in small doses, you show your brain that fear doesn't control you. Over time, your confidence becomes automatic, because your brain has seen enough evidence that you can handle discomfort. You also build confidence by learning to solve problems instead of running from them. When something goes wrong, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I can figure this out. That single sentence can reset your entire mindset. It activates the part of your brain responsible for solutions instead of panic. You don't need to know every answer. You just need to believe that you're capable of finding one. That belief turns chaos into clarity. The people who trust themselves the most are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who recover quickly from them. They don't let one bad moment define their identity. They see every setback as part of the process. You can build this same resilience by shifting how you talk to yourself after failure. Instead of saying, I can't believe I messed up, say, this is how I learn. Instead of thinking, I should have known better, say, now I know better. The words you use become the story your mind lives by. Confidence also grows through gratitude. When you focus on what's working instead of what's missing, you stop feeding insecurity. Gratitude helps you see your strengths and recognize your progress. It's not about ignoring what needs improvement. It's about not letting your flaws overshadow your growth. The more you appreciate how far you've come, the more motivated you feel to keep going. Gratitude fuels confidence because it reminds you that you've already overcome so much. Another way to build inner confidence is by taking responsibility for your life. You can't feel powerful while blaming everything on external forces. When you accept that your choices shape your reality, you reclaim control. That doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means understanding that you have influence. You can choose your actions, your reactions, and your mindset. Responsibility doesn't weigh you down. It lifts you up because it gives you the power to change what's not working. Your inner confidence also depends on how you handle uncertainty. Life will always be unpredictable. No matter how carefully you plan, things will shift. Confidence is not about predicting the future. It's about trusting your flexibility. When you trust your ability to adapt, you stop fearing uncertainty. You learn to flow with life instead of resisting it. You start seeing change, not as a threat, but as an opportunity to expand. Sometimes, the best way to strengthen your self-trust is to look back at the moments when you didn't think you'd make it, but you did. Think about the heartbreaks, disappointments, or challenges that once felt impossible. You got through them. You may have cried, struggled, or stumbled, but you didn't give up. That's proof that you're capable. When you remind yourself of those moments, you build emotional evidence that your strength is real. You can also boost confidence by learning new skills. Every time you master something new, no matter how small, your brain records success. It starts believing, if I can learn this, I can learn more. That mindset carries into every area of life. You begin to approach challenges with curiosity instead of fear. Learning keeps you mentally flexible and emotionally strong. Confidence also grows when you keep your focus on effort rather than outcome. You can't control every result, but you can control how you show up. When you give your best, even if things don't turn out perfectly, you can still feel proud. That pride is the foundation of self-trust. It's knowing you did what you could, and that's enough. Another powerful practice is visualization. Imagine yourself handling challenges with calm and confidence. See yourself staying centered under pressure. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagination and reality. So when you visualize strength, you train your mind to expect it. Then, when real challenges come, your reaction follows the pattern you've already practiced mentally. To maintain confidence, you must also take care of your energy. A tired, overwhelmed mind loses trust in itself quickly. Rest, movement and proper care are not luxuries, they're requirements for confidence. When your body is cared for, your mind feels supported. When your mind is rested, your emotions become balanced. From that balance, confidence naturally grows. The people who trust themselves the most are those who allow themselves to feel everything: fear, sadness, confusion, without losing direction. They understand that emotions are part of being human, not signs of weakness. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can feel nervous and still speak up. Strength doesn't mean the absence of emotion. It means the ability to act despite it. As you continue building inner confidence, remind yourself that it's a process, not a single moment of awakening. It's built in the small decisions you make every day, in choosing honesty over avoidance, growth over comfort, and effort over excuse. Over time, those choices become who you are. You stop needing external validation, because your trust in yourself becomes your anchor. Eventually, you reach a point where you no longer need life to be easy to feel strong. You stop waiting for everything to align before you move forward. You begin to see that life doesn't get easier. You get better at handling it. That's the real meaning of inner confidence. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. It's not loud or showy. It's calm and grounded. It's knowing that whatever comes your way, you'll figure it out, you'll adapt, and you'll keep going. That's the kind of confidence no one can give you, and no one can take away. It's built, not borrowed. It's earned through every challenge, every comeback, every decision to trust yourself, when it would have been easier to quit. And once you have it, you no longer fear life. You embrace it, because you finally know that you have everything it takes to handle it.
Chapter 9. Create a mindset that turns every setback into growth. Every person faces moments that test them, moments where something goes wrong, where effort doesn't match result, and where disappointment feels heavier than hope. Those moments can either break you or build you, depending on how you interpret them. The difference between people who rise and people who stay down is not intelligence, talent, or luck, it's mindset. A strong mind doesn't see a setback as proof of failure. It sees it as feedback, a lesson, a turning point. Life isn't about avoiding problems. It's about learning how to grow from them. When you create a mindset that turns every setback into growth, nothing can truly defeat you, because even loss becomes progress. Growth begins with how you define a setback. Most people see a setback as punishment or rejection. They think it means they weren't good enough, smart enough, or prepared enough, but that interpretation keeps you trapped. A setback isn't the end of the road. It's a signal that something needs to be understood or adjusted. It's not telling you to quit. It's telling you to evolve. The moment you stop treating difficulties as attacks and start viewing them as teachers, you take back control of your life. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become a student of your experience. The human mind naturally resists failure because it hurts. It bruises your pride, it triggers self-doubt, and it exposes weakness.
But pain itself isn't the problem. It's what you do with it that decides your future. Pain can be destructive, or it can be instructive. The most powerful people you'll ever meet didn't get there by avoiding pain. They learned how to translate it into power. They stopped asking why me, and started asking what now. That one shift in thinking transforms chaos into clarity. When you hit a setback, the first reaction is emotional. Frustration, anger, disappointment, they're natural responses. But what comes next matters more. Instead of reacting impulsively, give yourself a moment to feel. Then ask one simple question: what is this teaching me? That question takes your brain out of reaction mode and puts it into learning mode. It stops you from seeing yourself as powerless and helps you find meaning in the experience. Growth always begins with reflection, not reaction. To turn setbacks into growth, you need to let go of the idea that success is supposed to be smooth. Real progress is uneven. It comes with setbacks, rejections, and wrong turns. That's not failure, it's feedback. Every mistake reveals something: what doesn't work, what needs to improve, what requires patience. If you can accept that progress includes pain, you'll never get stuck when things go wrong. You'll keep moving forward while others stop to complain. It's important to understand that setbacks don't erase your progress. They expose where you need to grow next. Every time something falls apart, it shows you what still needs strengthening: your mindset, your habits, your focus, or your patience. Instead of saying, "I failed," ask, "what is this showing me about myself?" Maybe it's teaching you resilience, humility, or emotional control. Maybe it's revealing a blind spot or showing you a better path. If you listen carefully, every setback has something valuable to say. The people who grow the fastest are the ones who don't take setbacks personally. They separate the event from their identity. When something fails, they don't think, "I'm a failure." They think, "this didn't work." That separation is everything. It keeps your self-worth intact while you learn from the experience. The moment you fuse failure with identity, you stop trying. But when you see it as a process, you stay open to change. Turning setbacks into growth also means learning patience. Growth is not instant. Sometimes the lesson you're supposed to learn takes time to reveal itself. Maybe you needed that delay to develop discipline. Maybe the rejection was saving you from something not meant for you. You may not see it in the moment, but life often teaches in reverse. Understanding comes after the struggle. Trust that your growth is happening, even when it's not visible yet. Another key element of this mindset is curiosity. Instead of judging every mistake harshly, become curious about it. Ask yourself, what pattern led to this? What assumption did I make? What skill do I need to learn? Curiosity replaces shame with awareness. It turns failure into risk. And when you're curious, you start improving faster, because you're no longer afraid of what went wrong. You're interested in how to make it better. To create a growth mindset, you must also redefine success. Success is not the absence of setbacks, it's the ability to recover from them. Anyone can look confident when everything goes right, but true growth is revealed when things fall apart and you still keep your head up. Every challenge you overcome becomes another brick in the foundation of your strength. You don't build wisdom in comfort, you build it in resistance. You also have to challenge your beliefs about control. You can't control everything that happens, but you can always control how you interpret it. Two people can go through the same setback. One breaks, the other builds. The difference is choice. One person focuses on what was lost, the other focuses on what was learned. You can't always choose your pain, but you can choose your perspective. That's what makes you powerful. To keep a growth mindset alive, practice reflection after every experience, good or bad. Ask yourself, what worked, what didn't? What will I do differently next time? This kind of reflection turns every experience into a learning tool. Instead of letting pain close your mind, you use it to open it wider. Over time, this habit builds emotional intelligence, the ability to learn from every outcome without losing hope. It also helps to surround yourself with people who have a growth mindset. Negative people will convince you that setbacks mean it's time to give up. Growth-minded people remind you that setbacks mean it's time to learn. Who you listen to during hard times shapes how you recover. Spend time with people who focus on progress, not pity. Their mindset will strengthen yours. Gratitude also plays a big role in growth. When something goes wrong, it's easy to focus on the loss. But gratitude helps you focus on the lesson. It doesn't mean you're happy about the pain. It means you're thankful that it's teaching you something valuable. Gratitude turns frustration into perspective. It reminds you that even in failure, you're still moving forward, still learning, still alive. When you encounter setbacks, resist the urge to rush past them. Most people want to escape discomfort as fast as possible. But growth happens in reflection, not avoidance. Sit with your pain long enough to understand it. Ask what it's trying to show you. The answers you find in those moments become the wisdom that guides your future decisions. Growth requires patience with yourself. You can't rush transformation. Another essential part of turning setbacks into growth is forgiveness. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you made. You did the best you could with the knowledge and awareness you had at the time. Beating yourself up doesn't build strength, it builds shame. Forgiveness frees your energy so you can use it to improve instead of replaying what went wrong. Growth begins when self-blame ends. You can also train your brain to see progress where others see problems. After a setback, instead of saying, "This ruined everything," say, "This redirected me." That one change in language can shift your entire energy. Words are powerful. They shape how your brain processes experience. Choose words that open you up instead of shutting you down. You'll start to feel lighter, more capable, more willing to try again. Building a mindset that turns setbacks into growth also means developing persistence. You must refuse to quit just because the path is harder than you expected. Every skill, every dream, every transformation takes time. You may not get it right the first, second, or even third time, but if you keep showing up, improvement is inevitable. Persistence transforms effort into excellence. The people who seem lucky are usually the ones who simply refuse to stop trying. Growth also requires humility. You must be willing to admit that you don't know everything. Setbacks often happen to teach you something you missed. If you approach every challenge with the attitude of a student instead of an expert, you'll find lessons everywhere. Humility keeps your mind open. Arrogance closes it. The more open you are, the more life can teach you. Sometimes, a setback isn't meant to fix something. It's meant to redirect you. Not every closed door is a mistake. Some are protection. When you stop forcing outcomes and start trusting timing, you find peace even in delay. That's another sign of a growth mindset. You don't panic when plans change. You adjust, adapt, and keep moving.